Hi, it's Erin from Flying Off the Bookshelf, and today let's talk about the differences between Disney World and Disneyland. Because if you're planning a Disney trip, you might be wondering which one you should visit. So first, let's do a quick summary. Disney World. It's located in Orlando, Florida. It has 4 theme parks, over 25 hotels. It's a huge park, very spread out. There's more rides, more restaurants, more everything. Disneyland is located in Anaheim, California, right outside of Los Angeles. There are 2 theme parks there, 3 hotels. It's definitely a smaller space. It's easy to get from one park to the other, but it is the first park and has that classic Disney charm. Okay, so let's dig in a little deeper. First of all, location and size. Since Disney World is in Orlando, if you live on the East Coast, it's probably going to be easier for you to visit Disney World. And since Disneyland is in California, same goes for if you live on the West Coast. They are also hugely different in size. Disney World spans over 40 square miles, while Disneyland in California is just 500 acres. Okay, so let's talk about what's in the parks. Disney World has 4 theme parks: Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom. Magic Kingdom is your classic park, Cinderella Castle, it's what everyone thinks of. Epcot is home to World Showcase that has pavilions from different countries, plus the front half is dedicated to discovery and learning. It has the big Spaceship Earth ride that looks like a giant golf ball. Hollywood Studios focuses on the magic of movie making, and there are special lands there dedicated to movies like Toy Story and Star Wars. And Animal Kingdom is kind of half theme park, half zoo. It's actually my favorite Disney park. You'll find lands with real animals like Africa and Asia, but you'll also find lands that are more fantastical like Pandora, the world of Avatar. Disneyland in California has 2 theme parks on property. You have the original Magic Kingdom, which everyone also mostly calls Disneyland, and that is home to Sleeping Beauty Castle. It's very much like Magic Kingdom at Disney World, except you also have some different lands like Toontown and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Disney's California Adventure is right across the Esplanade from Disneyland, and to me this park feels a lot like Hollywood Studios, but the rest is kind of unique. You have Cars Land here, Pixar Pier, and Avengers Campus. This is one of my other favorite Disney parks. Okay, so as you can imagine, having entirely different theme parks also means that there are some big differences when it comes to rides. We can't list them all here. It would be way too hard to give you a list of every ride that's different or the same in each park. But some rides that are found at Walt Disney World in Florida, but not Disneyland, are rides like Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Tron Light Cycle Run, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, Slinky Dog Dash, and Avatar Flight of Passage. And then some rides that are at Disneyland in California, but not at Disney World, are Alice in Wonderland, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, RIP to when it used to be at Disney World, Radiator Springs Racers, and Incredicoaster. And of course, there's a lot of rides that can be found at both parks. Fantasyland classics like Peter Pan and It's a Small World are on both properties. I'll be honest though, I think that most of the time, Disneyland's version of dark rides are better. You tend to have rides that are darker, more immersive, you get closer to the scenery. I just like them better. You also have favorites like Space Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, Pirates of the Caribbean that are at both parks. There are differences in these rides between Disneyland and Disney World though, like Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland has 2 drops, while at Disney World it only has 1. And Space Mountain, while similar in concept, is to me entirely a different ride. Disneyland's is so much better. Okay, what about entertainment? Because both parks have great entertainment. To me though, Disney World has a lot more to offer. Because they have the 4 parks, there's just a lot more going on. Magic Kingdom has Happily Ever After, which is my favorite fireworks show ever. Epcot has a fireworks show. There's Fantasmic at Hollywood Studios. And there are so many stage shows around the parks, like the Beauty and the Beast stage show, for the first time in forever, a Frozen sing-along celebration, which is one of my favorites, Festival of the Lion King, and more. Disneyland has some great shows too. There are fireworks shows at Disneyland, although they don't happen every night. They also do have Fantasmic, and World of Color 1 is a really great water projection show in California Adventure. Entertainment options in both parks are great, but I think Disney World does have the edge here. Okay, let's talk about hotels because there's a big difference between Disneyland and Disney World when it comes to the resorts. So Disney World has over 25 resort hotels you can choose from to stay at if you want to stay on property, which means in the Disney bubble on Disney World property. The pros of this is that you have access to Disney World transportation. You get additional benefits like early entry to the parks where you get to go in 30 minutes earlier. You get to book your lightning lanes earlier than people that are not staying at the parks. So there are definite benefits. Personally, I love being in the Disney bubble at Disney World and being able to stay on property. And because there are so many options here, you can usually find something that's going to work for you. There are Disney Deluxe resorts, which are very expensive and very nice. There's moderate resorts, and then there's also value resorts. They are all fantastic. Disneyland only has 3 hotels though. There is the Grand Californian, the Disneyland Hotel, and Pixar Place. So there's not as many options of where to stay on property, but I don't think it is as important to stay on property when you're visiting Disneyland. Disneyland is very much in the center of a city. It's in the middle of Anaheim, and there are so many other hotels within walking distance of the parks that it's so easy to stay at an off-property hotel. Every time I've gone to Disneyland, I've actually used hotel points to stay at a nearby hotel, and it's worked out fantastically. Okay, let's talk about food now. Theme parks get a bad rap for food, but I think both Disneyland and Disney World have some excellent food choices. Yes, there are some places that have not so great burgers and pizza, but if you do your research, you can really find some true gems. Because Disney World is bigger, they just have a lot more options. There are tons of table service restaurants, there's character dining. You'll find popular places here like Cinderella's Royal Table, Be Our Guest Restaurant, Space 220, which puts you in an elevator and virtually sends you up to space to dine. But there's also some excellent quick service in Disney World too. In fact, Satuli Canteen, which is a quick service restaurant in Animal Kingdom, is probably my favorite food that I have had at Disney World. And of course, Epcot, because they have the World Showcase that highlights so many different countries, there are so many fantastic options of different foods you can get at varying prices. Another quick service favorite of mine is Les Halles Boulangerie and Patisserie in the France Pavilion. It is so good. I think that Disneyland tends to focus more on quick service than table service. There are some great table service options in Disneyland. I've loved Carthay Circle and Lamplight Lounge, but they also have some truly fantastic quick service. Bengal Barbecue, I think, is a highlight for me, and Pim's Test Kitchen is so fun and really delicious too. Also, if you go to Disneyland, don't leave without eating a churro. Both parks have churros. Disneyland's are the ones to get. Another important thing about Disney is meeting characters. So let's talk about the differences here. Again, because Disney World is bigger, they're going to have more characters. At both parks, you're going to find classics like Minnie and Mickey, the princesses, but in Disney World, you're also likely to get some characters that you can't meet other places, like Olaf and Moana and Pocahontas. These are more rare characters and they have the space to put them in Disney World. Disneyland, however, even though they maybe don't have as many different characters, I think Disneyland has more magical character interactions. Disneyland is known for having characters just wandering around and talking to people. They really create the immersive experience that's at Disneyland, as opposed to at Disney World, you more often have to get in line to meet a character. At Disneyland, you're more likely to just stumble upon one who's wandering around the park interacting with guests. Okay, let's talk about kind of the vibes and the miscellaneous factors at each park. There's a few differences between Disneyland and Disney World that can't really easily be categorized. So general vibes. Disney World is a vacation mecca. It's full of families that want that magical experience and are there for that full week of Disney magic. Disneyland, on the other hand, while it's also a big vacation destination, you're more likely to have single-day visitors and locals who just want to pop by for the afternoon. So it definitely has some different vibes with the crowd. The location also impacts this. Because Disney World is kind of more of a bubble, you forget that the outside world exists. It's a little harder to do this at Disneyland because when you walk outside the gates, there's non-Disneyland right next door. Another big difference that I noticed between the two parks is the design and how different they are. Disneyland opened in 1955 and Disney World opened in 1971. And I think in those years, they really watched what happened at Disneyland and made some changes at Disney World that I think make the park feel less crowded and give you a little bit more space. For instance, at Disneyland, the lines in Fantasyland are tiny, and there's more places where you feel cramped. Now, California Adventure in Disneyland, they opened that later, and it's a newer park. I don't think it has these same space issues. There's so much space in California Adventure. At Disney World, however, I think they knew to anticipate those crowds and they designed the park for kind of better traffic flows and wider walkways. So there are less places where I felt the crowds pushing in on me than some places at Disneyland. However, Disneyland, because it is the first park, has that classic charm that Disney World just can't achieve. Walt Disney had a direct hand in creating Disneyland, and there is something that makes that extra magical. Okay, so which one should you choose? Let's talk about the most important factors. If you're looking for a big vacation, you live on the East Coast, and you just want to really immerse yourself in the Disney bubble and experience everything you can, I would go to Walt Disney World. If you want a shorter trip, though, that's more manageable, you have easy access to the West Coast, I'd go to Disneyland. I think Disneyland is a less overwhelming trip to plan, but Disney World does offer more experiences. Personally, I absolutely adore them both. I am a Disney World girl at heart because that's where I grew up going, but I've been to Disneyland several times now, and every time I go, I fall more in love with it. Either way, you can't go wrong. They're both so magical, and I hope you have a fantastic vacation. If you found this video helpful, I'd love if you could hit like or subscribe so you don't miss a video, and I'll see you next time.